I'm here with Krishna Mahesh, a member of the Harvard Business School MBA class of 2005, who is the founder and CEO of Sundaram Medical Devices. And you were sponsored by the HBS Club of India, and you are the winner of the first Alumni New Venture Contest. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Let's start at the beginning, and that is, what is Sundaram Medical Devices and how did it come about?
So Sundaram Medical Devices is a venture that's there to manufacture hospital and medical beds. When you think about the need for hospital beds in India, in the US, the spend on healthcare per person per year is $6,400. In India, the spend is $36. So you're talking about 1/200th of the spend in the US. Now, as a result, the number of beds in India is 8 beds, hospital beds, per 10,000 people. In the US, it's closer to 50. So you have very few hospital beds, you have very little healthcare provision in India. The initial provisioning of healthcare in India is just about to begin. And we think that bringing in the quality control and manufacturing tightness, the manufacturing specifications of automotive to healthcare in India will allow us to deliver a world quality of bed at an Indian cost, a cost that's affordable to Indian hospitals. At the same time, we'll look at how do we ensure that it's friendly for both the caregiver, the patient, and for the hospital also. So ensure that we deliver a world quality of product at a price that's affordable to India. And so that's the aim of Sundaram Medical Devices. So the shortage of beds in India right now, if you look at trying to go from an Indian level to, let's even just say, a UK level, not even the US level, is 3 million beds. So, and currently in India, the number of these, it's 82,000 beds sold per year. So it's going to take 30 years if we continue to sell at these volumes to meet that gap. It's not going to take 30 years. So what Sundaram Medical Devices says is we will go ahead, bring in the volumes from automotive, bring in the quality controls that are present in automotive, and be able to deliver a bed which is far more price effective, far higher quality, and fill that gap much quicker.
So like a good entrepreneur, you surveyed the market and saw this as an important need.
Yes, we did, but the story goes a little bit deeper than that. Looking at it in retrospective, it's nice to spin a story that I did this complete analytical study, and what happened was in 2008, my mother was diagnosed with duodenal adenocarcinoma, which is a type of cancer, and it was due to the skill of the surgeons at Sloan Kettering that she survived, and fortunately now she's cancer-free. But so she had her treatment here, and then went back to India for follow-up treatment. In India, fortunately, we're a very well-off family, so she received some of the best care possible in India. But when I looked at the equipment chasm between what is present here and what's present in India, the gap was very large. And to me, I was like, there shouldn't, and if we're well off and there's this huge gap in equipment quality, not the medical professionals in India are tremendous, but the equipment quality differential is large. So I was like, even for the well off, if the gap is this large, you can imagine what the gap is for the people who are not as well off and not as fortunate. So my thing was, there is a definite need to be able to improve the equipment in India and healthcare. Then what I said was, okay, this is intuition. So this is your gut. So management is about backing up your gut with facts, proving or disproving what you believe. So then I did an actual study using kind of my McKinsey background and said, okay, let's look at 192 different industries. I love manufacturing, so it's got to be manufacturing. Looked at 192 different industries, cut it by capital intensity, labor intensity, growth, value addition, and healthcare did come out as a very promising candidate. There were 2 candidates that came up, implantable medical devices and hospital furniture medical beds. Implantable medical devices, coming from my automotive background, it's difficult to tell someone, I designed your car for you, now let me design your knee. It's invasive. Once you start going into the body, the risk profile rises dramatically. The cost of getting something wrong is very, very high. But automotive, we're used to safety critical type of things. When you're driving a car, you're basically driving an exploding petrol engine, gasoline engine at 90 miles an hour. So it's safety criticality is important. So what we did was say, okay, we will try to bring that quality and safety to the hospital market, and the best way to enter, the lowest risk way to enter, is medical beds, where the metal forming and the design processes are very similar to automotive, but there is this ability to bring this quality and cost into it.
So let's describe, we're probably all aware of this, but let's just describe briefly these beds. They have moving heads, moving feet, that sort of thing.
Yes, so a hospital bed, if you think about it, is a metal platform on which there are 4 degrees of motion. One is the head goes up and down, the entire bed can raise and lower, and then the foot can basically go up and down, and then the final bed itself can tilt. So there are 4 different actuation mechanisms. The challenge in India is there are 2 types of basic beds. There's the electronic bed and the manual bed. The electronic bed is you basically have a control in your hand and the motor actuates the bed up and down. In a manual bed, you have a crank and the nurse or the attender or one of the patient's loved ones cranks the bed up and down. The problem in India, so here's the thing. In the US, a hospital bed costs between $5,000 and $37,000. In India, a manual bed is $500 and an electronic bed is $2,000. So an electronic bed costs 4 times as much as a manual bed, but the patient's not going to pay you 4 times as much for the procedure. So what Indian hospitals have is by and large manual beds. Now the manual beds in India are very derivative in design, putting it politely. They tend to be replicas of very old hospital beds. They wouldn't pass OSHA standards in the US today. So if you think about a caregiver who's a nurse who weighs 110 pounds, they got to put in 22 pounds of effort to turn that crank, and each turn of the crank moves half an inch. So if I want to move 10 inches, I'm turning the crank 20 times, applying 22 pounds of force each time, which is very, very difficult. So we said there's a better way to make that manual bed. So we went and redesigned the manual bed, so now it takes less than 10 pounds of effort, and every time you turn that crank, it moves 2 inches. So we've reduced the effort for the caregiver dramatically. And what that's enabled us to do on the electronic side is to use smaller motors, different motors, and actually bring the price of the bed down from $2,000 to $900. So,
and who is we?
So
you had the idea, and
Yes.
then you went and found a team.
Right.
Just walk us through that
Sure.
a bit.
So I come from an automotive family in India, but it's a very conservative automotive family right now that wants to stay within automotive. So I said, look, let me try and take advantage of what I've got. I understand automotive well. The family has pre-approved suppliers in design and components. So when we created a team, I said, let me minimize the capital spend initially. I'll go ahead and hire these people on contract. So for example, the companies we have pre-approved suppliers, contract designers of beds, contract designers of components. And I said, okay, these guys are already pre-approved, so I'm not guessing that this is a good designer. I know they're good. So we took some of these pre-approved designers. So I hired them, and Sundaram Medical Devices was formed. We basically hired fabricators to people who've actually done fabrication work for the family company. So these are people who we know already do good work, and we hired them to go ahead, design our prototypes, design the actual bed itself. The contacts with the hospitals is largely because most large hospitals in India are already family-run businesses. And our family knows their family relatively well. So when a call went from one of our chief doctors within our company, so we have medical doctors in companies, it's required by law, and they said, look, Krishna Mahesh would like to talk to you, he's a part of the TVS family. They were very open and receptive to my actually going and talking to them.
TVS is the name of your family business.
That's right, TVS is the name of my family business, started by my great-grandfather. And so it's reputed for quality and integrity in India, and that reputation serves us well. And they said, look, if somebody from TVS wants to talk to us, we'll talk to them. So it gets me past the gatekeeper to actually make the case, to actually talk to them, to understand their needs and understand what the hospital needs.
And you're based in southern India.
That's right.
And you're up and running and producing products?
Not yet. So what we've done is we've gone through this very rigorous 5-stage prototyping. In automotive, there's a long prototyping process, which is novel to Indian healthcare. When we talk to some of the general managers of purchasing in some of these hospitals, one of them was from GE, said, I've seen this in GE, but I've never seen this in Indian healthcare. So we're following this 5-stage prototyping where at every stage we ensure quality and safety. So the first stage was to take a 220-pound patient, 440-pound patient, load him on the bed as we've designed it, and determine, is the bed going to deflect? Is it safe? And try out various combinations. We have a factor of safety of more than 2, so you could put 880 pounds, it would still be safe. The next stage was to determine the actuation effort. How much force does it take to turn our bed versus a competitor bed, which is the functional prototype. The third stage was to do the aesthetic prototype. So when you go into a bed, when the patient walks in, they're not met with shock saying, wait, I got to lie on that slab and be treated like a piece of meat. So you want them to feel, this is going to help me get better. This is going to help me recover. So there's now industrial designers working on the aesthetic prototype, which is where we are right now. The next 2 stages is actually doing the customer prototype. So we actually send evaluation prototypes to hospitals, and 3 major hospitals have agreed to test these for a period of a month and that helps us understand what is it we've not understood well yet. What have we failed in understanding? How can we improve this further before we go to launch? And then there's the 5th prototype, which is taking all of these learnings and putting it through our manufacturing process to say, how do we refine our manufacturing process to ensure we're building it right? So, oh wait, this nut can't go here. It has to be it has got to be installed somewhere else down the line. So when we're done with that, we will have a fully launched, fully tested product which has been already pre-tested in hospitals before we launch.
And India is a huge market.
Yes.
Over 1 billion in population, shortage of beds, you say, in excess of 3 million.
Yeah.
So penetrating the Indian market will take some time.
Yes.
Going forward, have you thought about exporting these or bringing these to other developing nations?
Absolutely. I mean,
in the region?
There really is. So a lot of countries are beginning to so the developing world is finally beginning to really develop. GDP, you see GDP growth in India, China, other countries, Brazil, are all beginning to develop and get their GDP up. When people look to, when you look at people saying for their basic needs, they look to feed their family, they look to ensure they have a job, then they look to make sure their family is well. So healthcare is a need that every developing world has everybody wants to provide. So there is a real need in a number of countries around the world for this exact same product, something that allows hospitals to actually provide a higher standard of care than they are able to today at an affordable price. So the initial markets we will look at are adjacent markets to us: Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, the Middle East, and North Africa. But then there is a larger market, the African continent, as it begins to develop. South America, many countries in South America also have similar needs. And this is something we will look to see. If we've found something that really helps people, there's no reason that it will only work in India. It will work all over the world.
So to conclude, let's talk a little bit about how you hooked up with the New Venture Contest.
The Harvard Business School Club of India sent out an email saying, look, there's this new Alumni New Venture competition. And to me, I said, there's no chance I'm going to win. I'm definitely going to lose. I'm producing a physical product that actually you can feel, touch. It requires real assets. It requires you to have working capital. And venture capitalists only invest in mobile or IT, high tech. This is not sexy. This is furniture. It's not a cool new device that's going to, show 27 different colors. It's not 52-inch flat. So it doesn't do anything. It's not cool. It's not sexy in that way. So this is going to lose. But what I'm going to gain out of this is I think I come from a manufacturing background. I have this HBS way of thinking. That's fine. But I don't have any VC experience. What are VCs? How is it that people with a different experience set think about this problem? And so I'll lose, but then I'll have a set of questions that I can go about and think about and make the business better from that point of view. So no one was more surprised than I that I won the India round, I assure you. But then once I'd done that, I was committed. I was representing the India Business Club, and I couldn't let them down. So the way I think, the way I put together my thoughts is into McKinsey slide packs. That's kind of a McKinsey trading that I basically put stuff into a story so I can understand where it is I'm going and what I should do next. So I had some of these slides already. So it wasn't as much of a struggle to put together the presentation as it could have been, but I got great advice. I got advice from the India Club president, my faculty mentor here at HBS.
Who was that, by the way?
Mukti Kare is my faculty advisor here. But I also got advice from a number of different sources. So my sister, who is also an HBS grad, lovingly told me this part of it stinks, this part of it could be improved in this way. And I also looked for friends from McKinsey who said, this is what you could do to improve. And since my plan actually requires physical assets, I was able to share my plan widely. I call this radical honesty. So I went out and said, here's the plan. I'm not worried about people duplicating it because it's very difficult to get through the gatekeepers in this market. Tell me what you think about it. How can I make this better? What am I doing wrong? What can I do better? So people provided me a lot of advice. So before I came here, I think there was so much advice that I had to choose which ones I would take. And that, I think, really helped me with the presentation here. And when I presented here, I again thought there's so many strong competitors. There are people who are out there, some in healthcare, some in the IT space. I was like, these guys have definitely got a plan together. There's Northern California, which is kind of the Silicon Valley's out there. They definitely got a better plan than mine. But I said, look, I really believe in what I'm doing. I think it makes it's
that passion that people talk about for entrepreneurs.
I mean, I know there is a need. I know that this product, I've talked to hospitals, I've talked to nurses. The director of nursing of one of the largest hospitals in India called me about a month ago and said, when is your bed coming out? We just got a competitor bed and our nurses hate it. So I know there is this need. So I said, look, whether I win or lose, no matter what, I've got a great experience. People have told me what the questions I haven't thought about. So whatever happens, I've won to some degree. And when they announced it yesterday, I was in shock. I mean, I said, there's no way this is going to happen, and it did. It sounds like an Oscar speech, but it's not. It really is. It's something I really did not expect to happen. I said, this is a physical product in 2010. It has no hope. There's no hope. It's a manufactured product. Manufacturing is, so 1970s. Nobody does manufacturing.
Well, you were wrong about that.
Yes.
That's for sure. But I think you're right about pretty much everything else you've told us today. So thank you for coming in, and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Jim. My pleasure.